Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Bauman, and I'm teaching artists in Paris, 1870 to 1920s. So I want to start by asking you a question. I think most of you know a lot of the artists who were working in Paris in this time. So let me ask you, by raise of hands, if I say the name Vincent van Gogh, how many of you know who I'm talking about? Okay. Now, second question. If I asked you to describe what his paintings look like, or even just name one, or think you're naming one, something about its subject matter or whatever, could anybody volunteer something like that out there? Who could? Starry Night. Okay, there's one title. What do they look like? What are the colors like? Bold colors, bold brush strokes. Are they bright and cheery colors or? Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Van Gogh created that style that you're all identifying and recognizing immediately in Paris. Before he got there, he was living in Antwerp, and he was painting something very different. It was dark, moody, peasants, old rotten shoes. And then he goes to Paris for only 2 years. That's all he spent in that city. And those 2 years transformed his art from night to day. What was it about Paris that had that power? That's what we're going to be studying. One of the things in my past was living in Europe for 10 years. And I taught study abroad programs while I was over there. And the thing that impressed me the most, and I think it's hard to relate to if you haven't actually lived in Europe for that long, is how important context is. So in my course, you may already have studied these artists or you know their art very, very well, but we're going to do something just a little bit different. We're actually going to go to Paris. Well, not really. I just asked if we could have a field trip there, and they said no. So we're going to take the next best thing, and we're going to pretend to go there in my class, and we're going to recreate Paris in that period. It was intensely competitive. We really only know about a handful of artists nowadays that were living there. There were over 600 in the 1870s, all vying for public attention. And Van Gogh wasn't very successful. He only managed to sell one painting in his lifetime. So who else was living there, and who were the people actually making all that money and selling their pictures? So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of recreate that intensely political environment that was Paris, and I want to make you, I hope, feel like you've actually been there. And so you can tell people, yes, every Friday afternoon I go to Paris. And you can tell them all about that. So that's what we'll be doing, painting that picture, looking at those artists from 1870 to 1920, an amazingly fecund period for art. So many artists coming from all over the world to Paris. They weren't staying where they were. Van Gogh from Antwerp, Picasso from Spain, John Singer Sargent from America. Paris. Paris was it. That is where you wanted to go. That is where you wanted to be. That's where I would like to be in January. But I'll be here teaching this instead. And hopefully at the end of it, you'll have a very clear understanding that many of the reasons the artists were painting the way they were was because of money, economic reasons. Did you know that Gauguin was jealous of Van Gogh? Because Van Gogh was getting money from his brother to give him enough to fund that big, heavy, thick paint on his canvases, and Gauguin didn't have enough money, and he had to paint really flat, thin paint, because he couldn't afford it, and he was so jealous of Gauguin, and so he picked on Van Gogh, and he said, "You need to change your art." Well, poor Van Gogh tried, but he could only be Van Gogh. Well, did you know that? That's why their art looks so different. Part of it's economic considerations. Well, look at that too. So I hope you'll just have a lot of fun. If you come with me and join me on this journey, I will bring cookies. And you're welcome to bring your beret. And vive la France, I guess. All right, thank you.